Hello, welcome to another IELTS essay writing video. I would like to thank those of you who submitted essays to me this past week for our online essay contest. What you can see on your screen is a photo of all the essays after I finished grading them and laying them out in order of quality. In total, 27 essays were submitted. I've posted them to the blog, and I've done so in order of quality. The essays denoted by green are essays that scored above a 7. Blue indicates essays scoring around a 6, and red denotes essays scoring under a 6. Now, before we get down to analyzing the essays themselves, I just wanted to explain how I went about gauging the quality of the essays. I graded all essays using the IELTS writing band descriptors, which is this file here. And this file is available from IELTS.org. I will post a link to it from this blog post as well. So let's take a look at the band descriptors together. Now let me zoom in. Now what you can see is that there are 4 columns along the top. The first being task response, which refers to how effectively your essay responds to the problem you are presented in your task 2 question. Coherence and cohesion refer to the ability and ease with which the reader can comprehend what you have written and how well you have linked your various ideas together. Lexical resources refer to the choice and accuracy of the words the student uses and whether or not these words convey an idea clearly. And the last column is grammatical range and accuracy, which gauges a student's control and usage of English grammar. So now the chart indicates very specifically what essay would score in each of these categories at what band. And when reading your essays, I used this chart exclusively. And I feel confident that the decisions I made based on this chart would reflect fairly accurately the marks a student would receive on the IELTS exam. So once again, this is a chart that's available publicly from IELTS.org. and you can download it yourself. Okay, so now that we know how Task 2 written responses are assessed, let's talk about the results of the contest. So I'll switch back to this file in here. Whoop. Okay. So we were lucky enough to have 2 winners in our contest. And you can see on the website the first and second essay I've posted are in green. One is from our friend in the Philippines, and another is from a friend of ours from China who lives in Australia. So congratulations to you if you are one of the writers of these essays. The essays these people submitted were very good, and I think that you will agree that they are deserving of the best essay title. So what I would like to do is to read through these 2 essays with you and to look at and analyze exactly what makes these essays effective. So according to our writing band descriptors chart, the chart that we just looked at together, these 2 essays would both score above a 7. So now let's go back to our file here. And let's start by reading through the question that was posted to my blog last week that so many of you responded to. The question reads, someday paper money and coins will be replaced by credit cards and online methods of monetary exchange. Do you agree or disagree? So the essay question is very straightforward. It presents a point of view, which is that electronic forms of monetary exchange are going to one day take the place of physical money. And then we are presented with a very straightforward question, which is, do you agree or disagree? Now, the most straightforward way to respond to this essay question is to write an argument essay, which most of you did. However, there were a few students that decided they were going to try to respond in a discussion style of essay, and unfortunately it makes it a little bit more difficult to follow, as the essay question is clearly asking us to take a position. Do you agree with this statement or do you disagree with this statement? There's no real in between. So before we even get to the essays, I feel that this essay question would have been best responded to in an argument style of essay. Okay, now let's read through the first essay together. And this essay was submitted to me by our friend in the Philippines. People nowadays are presented with numerous ways of paying for purchases. Both the traditional paper money and coins, and the much newer ways of payment, such as credit cards, are available in most establishments. However, it is argued that eventually the modern way of monetary exchange will replace the use of paper money and coins. This will be proven by looking at the advantages of modern money exchange over the traditional forms of payment. Firstly, it is now increasingly common for people to shop online. To illustrate, an American study once showed that more and more Americans are now doing their Christmas shopping online instead of trooping to the stores to buy gifts for their loved ones. Since paper money and coins cannot be used to pay for online purchases, this example makes it clear that there are instances when traditional money cannot be used for payment. Thus, it is clear that eventually people will embrace the modern ways of monetary exchange for them to be able to participate in online commerce. Additionally, the security features of credit cards and online methods of monetary exchange give authorities the capability of tracing the use of the cards. On the other hand, if person carrying money is robbed, it is difficult to find out where the stolen money is used. It is therefore argued that the safety features of modern monetary exchange will be invaluable for people who want to keep their hard-earned money safe. As this benefit is sought by many, it is clear that credit cards will be chosen by people more often as their payment method. After looking at the above, it can be seen that modern monetary exchange has advantages over paper money and coins. It is thus expected that the use of credit cards and online monetary exchange will eventually replace the traditional forms of payment. Okay, so now let's talk about why that essay is effective. Now, when we look at the entire essay, it is structured into 4 paragraphs. The first is an introduction, the second and third are supporting paragraphs, and the final paragraph is a conclusion. The essay contains a very clear thesis. So I'll just scroll back up here a second. Now in the first paragraph, let's see here. However, it is argued that eventually the modern way of monetary exchange will replace the use of paper, money, and coins. So when we read this essay, in the introduction, we know very clearly what position the writer has taken. This writer then goes on to tell us what they're going to talk about. So this will be proven by looking at the advantages of modern money exchange over the traditional forms of payment. Okay, perhaps they could have been a little bit more specific here, but they do provide us with sort of a plan for the rest of the essay. Okay, the essay uses strong examples that are pulled from real life. So I think there was the mention of some American study, an American study. And the essay makes reference to the thesis regularly. If you're new to essay writing, please take note during this video. At the end of each of the supporting paragraphs, the student references their thesis. Let's take a look. Now this is the end of the first supporting paragraph. Okay, let's read it. Thus, it is clear that eventually people will embrace the modern ways of monetary exchange for them to be able to participate in online commerce. This is a direct reference back to the thesis, which states that people will take on electronic forms of payment in place of physical money. Okay, so a direct reference back to the thesis. Now, it's not that they only do this once, they do it again in their second supporting paragraph. Let's take a look. As this benefit is sought by many, it is clear that credit cards will be chosen by people more often as their payment method. Another reference back to the thesis. So as you can see, this is an essay that is working at the essay level. It is not simply giving us a bunch of examples and assuming that the reader is going to put the argument together in their head. No, that's not it at all. This student has written very clearly supporting points and has linked those supporting points, those examples, back to the thesis. And that helps to strengthen the essay overall. Very good example of cohesion here. Okay. Now, what you will notice if we take a closer look at the wording of the essay is that every sentence, almost every sentence, uses cohesive phrases. After looking at the above, what is the above? The above is information that the student presented before. This is nothing new. This is something that has been shown to us already in the preceding sentence. Lots of the word thus. We also see, I think because of this, a couple other words to show a link and to show a conclusion that can be drawn from the points that the student brought up. Okay, let me take a look at my notes here. Okay, the student employs a fairly wide range of vocabulary. And as you've noticed as we read along, that the grammar is quite accurate. There are a few points that you might have picked up on that could be worded a little bit better, but on the whole, the grammar is pretty good. One key note we might make is that there are a number of sentences in this essay that are without grammatical error. And that is a key distinguishing feature between essays at the 7 and above level and essays at the 6 and below level. Okay, and I suppose my final positive point for this essay would be that it's very easy to understand from the beginning to the end. There's no point in the essay where the reader feels a little bit lost or confused regarding what the writer is trying to say. So a number of positive points for this essay. Now, let's talk about a few of the things this essay could have done better. You might have noticed that there is some light repetition in the essay. A few phrases and words are used a few times over. For example, I think the student uses the phrase monetary exchange, which as you can see on the screen here. We could have found another way to refer to this idea other than monetary exchange. I believe it appears 4 or 5 times. As I mentioned before, there are some slightly awkward wordings in a few areas, but as I also mentioned, that doesn't really detract from our understanding of the student's work. So, congratulations to this student. This is a strong essay. Now let's go to our second essay, which was submitted by our friend in Australia, who is originally from China. As our world becomes increasingly technology dependent, online payments and credit cards have no doubt become a much more prominent method of purchasing goods and services. It is, however, disagreed that banknotes and coins will be completely eradicated in the future as a result of this development. This will be proven by looking at the tangibility of modern currencies, as well as the security risk involved with virtual transactions. First of all, the modern day paper and metal currency is a convenient, tangible medium of exchange. Unlike credit cards or electronic exchanges, which often take time to transfer, banknotes and coinage have actual physical existence, which provides the bearer and merchant an instant exchange of material asset. This not only will simplify the exchange process, I think they meant to type process, but also allow the immediate use of cash for other transactions. Thus, the feasibility of using cash will no doubt secure its existence in society. In addition to this, many transactions involving the use of credit cards or online payments can entail a lot of security risk. For example, if a credit card has been stolen and tampered with, I think that's supposed to be tampered with, fraudulent transactions can occur. The person who comes across such misfortune will most likely be charged for any purchases that someone else has made. Thus, this clearly shows that using other payment methods other than coins or paper money can be unsafe and will not be used as the sole source exchange for this reason. After looking at how modern currency can be easier for daily use and the security risk involved with credit cards or other online payment methods, it has been shown why currencies will never be completely replaced by any other exchange mediums. It is therefore hoped that people can continue the use of modern currencies for its many benefits. Okay, let me get my notes out here for this essay. Now, what I like about these two essays, when giving you an example of a good essay, is that they take the opposite positions. So as we saw in the first essay, this was a person who felt that in the future, electronic forms of monetary exchange will prevail and perhaps replace physical money. This student has taken the opposite position. But what we see is that the structure of both essays is the same, and the merits within both essays are also very similar. So in this essay, we see a very strong thesis from the beginning, which I will take a second and point out to you. Okay. It is disagreed. It is however disagreed that banknotes and coins will be completely eradicated in the future as a result of this development. Another nice use of cohesion this student has employed by using this. They're referring to what they were saying before is that about electronic currency becoming more and more popular. They said even though this is happening, it will never completely replace the use of physical money. So this is a very, very straightforward, clear, concise thesis, and any essay examiner, any IELTS examiner will right away see the link between this essay and the essay question. So, of course, then that's that's going to help your task achievement portion of the mark. So that's my first point. The thesis is clear. Same as the essay before, there is regular referral back to the thesis. So when you look at the two supporting points, there is referral back to this thesis, keeping the entire essay linked and working together as one. The student presents some sound examples that show their argument in action. Okay, so on the whole, a lot of things very similar to the first essay. Now, just let me point out a few areas that could be improved. There's a little bit of repetition, just a few areas where a few words have been repeated. A couple instances of spelling errors. And the same as the first essay, perhaps slight awkwardness in areas with the wording. But as I pointed out before, these small issues do not detract from the reader's understanding of the student's work. And as well, this essay presents a number of sentences that are flawless. So there are no mistakes at all within those sentences. And as I pointed out before, this is a distinguishing feature of essays at this band level. So well done to our friend who submitted this essay. Now, I would like us to also take a look at a student who submitted an essay that scores at around a 6 level. And let's compare and clearly define what the differences are between essays written at, the level we've just seen and essays written at a 6 level. So, just let me scroll down here. Okay, and if you're looking for a reference, this is essay number 12 in my blog post. Let's get my notes out here for this essay. Okay. All right, let's read it together. There has been significant increase in usage of credit cards and online transactions. It is obvious from the fact that almost all retail chains and supermarkets provide these facilities. It is agreed that people will start using credit cards and online methods of monetary exchange rather than doing cash transactions. This will be analyzed by how these provide convenient, fast, and secure transactions. Firstly, an important aspect of using these plastic cards for buying items is that these are easier to carry as compared to currency notes. For example, they can be easily accommodated in the wallets without taking any noticeable space. They are also very much hassle-free, as you do not need to count them every time you go out for shopping. In addition, cashiers will be able to serve customers at supermarkets at a fast pace, provided credit cards are used, which in turn will result less waiting time for the people in queue, which is quite frustrating at times. As a result, it seems that credit cards will be used by all rather than use of traditional money. Secondly, online methods of monetary exchange are considered to be safe and secure. This is apparent from the fact that there are a growing number of web portals and online shopping sites which are equipped with facilities using these methods. One common example is Amazon Bookstore, which facilitates the user to purchase books online using credit cards in addition to keeping the customer details and information strictly confidential. This is not the case with paper money, as they can be easily grabbed by pickpockets. Thus, it is most likely that online methods will replace the old methods of monetary exchange. On the basis of above analysis, it is most probable that all of the trade will require credit cards, whether buying any item in supermarkets or shopping on the internet, due to the security and convenience it has to offer. It is expected that more customers will be moving towards these modern ways, and thus usage of currency notes will be eliminated. Okay, now I'm sure many of you, as we read along, were also able to point out a few areas that needed improvement. But let's start with things that this student has done well. So firstly, if we look kind of broadly at the essay, the structure is there. We see 4 paragraphs. We see a very clear introduction paragraph. We see 2 supporting paragraphs, and we see a concluding paragraph. So the overall structure is present. So, you know, the reader can feel that there is a progression through the essay. There's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end. Now, I will point out that when reading this essay, we can understand what the student is saying. There are a number of grammatical errors, but those errors do not detract from the reader's understanding of the essay. There are a few sentences with very little or no grammatical error, which is another distinguishing feature of essays at this band. The student uses a thesis, and the thesis is quite clear. So when we read, we know exactly what the student is trying to argue in this essay. So those are a few of the things that the student has done well. I will also, tack on that they used cohesion a number of times to link their ideas together. I can see some on the screen, and thus the usage of currency notes will be eliminated. So these little words have helped the student to link their ideas together. Now, let's go over the areas that the student needs to improve on. For one, the outline sentence, which I'll just scroll up and show you quickly, is quite awkward. So we go through the thesis. This will be analyzed by how these provide convenient, fast, and secure transactions. You know, we assume the student's going to talk about convenient, fast, and secure transactions, and they do. But I believe that convenient and fast are kind of you know, put together in a single paragraph, in the single supporting paragraph, and that paragraph starts to bring up examples, and you know, the discussion, that's when it starts to get a little bit weak, because it's difficult to follow the discussion for each of the examples. So let me try to track down something here. Okay, so now so the student has already brought up an example before this one, and then they bring up another example in the same paragraph. So in addition, cashiers will be able to serve customers at supermarkets at a fast pace, provided credit cards are used, which in turn will result in less waiting for time for people in the queue, which is quite frustrating at times. So this sentence, is a run-on sentence, and it's kind of difficult to see the link between, the example and the discussion. Had the students sort of broken it up into, two separate essays, that would have been better. And overall, personally, I find that paragraphs that are organized with one example that is discussed, effectively, tend to be kind of much cleaner looking and easier to read than sentences, paragraphs that try to, stick in 2 or 3 examples and to discuss them all. Okay, let's see here. So we mentioned run-on sentences. There are, like I mentioned before, numerous grammar errors, and there's some awkward wording at times. Let's see if we can track one of the areas down. Let's see. Okay, so one common example is Amazon Bookstore, which facilitates the user to purchase books online using credit cards in addition to keeping the customer details and information strictly confidential. So again, there's a number of ideas here. They're all being crunched into one sentence, and it's awkward. It's difficult to read. It's kind of long. This should be broken down and the grammar cleaned up a little bit. So that is an example of a student who submitted an essay and would score around a 6. Okay, now I have also included an example of a student who scored lower than a 6. And I am sharing this example. I don't want to embarrass the student at all, because we are all, working together. We just want to improve our skills. But I wanted to share this example essay with you. And if your writing is perhaps similar to this, this student's writing, I want to provide you some tips and a little bit of strategy for you as to how you can go about improving. So the student that wrote this essay, I marked it at about a 4, this coming essay, and I'll read through it and see if you can maybe pinpoint a few areas that would lead the student to a score that's so low. This is the last essay in our list, essay 27. Credit card is a new invention of modern science. One day it was hardly been thought about credit card. People nowadays greatly use mobile phones, internet, and other engine. They try to do their life more easy. Credit card is the blessings of science and technology. It is very easy to check balance, inquiry, and money transcription. I'm not sure what that means. Day by day, it is become popular. However, people now carry only some money on their bags. Because paper notes are replaced by credit cards, that's not a full sentence. In shopping mall, gold shops and also library have this wonderful device. Online shopping is good for busy people. They can buy or choose their products through online and then paying for this by credit card. Online shopping makes them confident. They can order their favorite fast foods like pizza, sandwich, burger, and it is delivered on time. On the other hand, paper notes is risky to carry. So people prefer credit cards better than paper notes. Yes, it is true, all kind of sorts we use credit cards, but we also foresee in future it may be used in hire a car or auto rickshaw. Okay, now what you probably noticed when we were reading that essay is that the structure is very difficult to follow. It is so difficult to follow that it feels like there is no structure at all. I had a tough time trying to decipher what the thesis is. So, basically, there is no point in the essay where the student states one sentence very clearly what their position is on the argument that was presented in our essay question. So of course, this is not going to help our task achievement mark if our IELTS examiner cannot see any link between your essay and the essay question. The examples are, they're kind of random, and there does not seem to be any discussion of the examples at all, so there's no real discussion of how these examples show the student's point of view. And then, this is a problem that's kind of snowballing because we don't know what the student's point of view is. There are grammatical errors in every single sentence and numerous spelling errors. And what you'll notice in this essay is that the grammatical errors start to hinder the reader's understanding of what the student is writing. So this is a very big difference between the essay that we saw prior, which would score around a 6. So when we read this essay, which I've scored it at about a 4, if any examiner is listening, they can let us know. Otherwise, the reader's understanding is not really there at all. The student misuses prepositions in almost all areas, and punctuation is also incorrect in most areas. So if when I read this essay you feel that your writing is similar to this student's, don't be distressed, and I don't think it would take a very long time for you to improve dramatically. It just takes a little bit more discipline to just focus on your writing and to get the structure correct. So if you look at the first 2 examples we read, the structure is very clear, it's precise, every sentence has a job, and every sentence carries out that job effectively. The third essay we read followed the same kind of structure. Even though there were some grammatical errors, it's still a quite effective essay. But this essay, the structure is not there. The grammar is, needs a lot of work. So I would suggest students that write in this manner to first commit a structure to memory and to try to write short sentences in the beginning while you're doing your training. Just short sentences until you can get your grammar strong enough that your short sentences are error-free. Now after that happens, when that might take, say, in this case it might take maybe a few months. After your sentences start to become strong, these short sentences are consistently strong, then you can start to lengthen them. Please take a good look at lessons about cohesion and cohesive phrases. So, thus, as this shows, because of this, this makes it clear that, firstly, for example, secondly, in conclusion, all these sorts of phrases link our ideas together, and they can be very helpful to students whose writing is at a low level, because this sort of gives you a platform to work from. These are the beginnings of your sentences, and what you have to do is tack on the end. I hope this contest was helpful. Please provide me some feedback as to whether we should do this again. Thank you for listening. Have a nice evening.